Thank you, Ilker. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to add my welcome and CII's welcome to you to our record-setting conference. Gosh, these lights are bright. I've been here since Saturday, I guess, shaking a lot of hands. I know I haven't shaken everybody's hand yet, but I do hope over the next couple days that I get to say thank you and personally welcome you to the conference. Got three things I want to cover for you on the opening today. I want to recognize the CII award winners for 2012. I want to review the CII, there we go. I want to review the CII safety statistics with you, your member safety statistics, and I want to thirdly talk to you about predictability and the value of predictability in capital projects. So let's just run along here. First, the award winners. By the way, do me a favor and stand up when I read your name, please. Distinguished Service Awards, Randy Abdallah from Walbridge, Barry Christian from URS, Melissa Herc from Emerson, John Lambert from Lilly. Hey. Our outstanding researcher, Bill O'Brien from the University of Texas, doing a spectacular job on workplace planning. Diane Underwood, ConocoPhillips, outstanding instructor. Outstanding implementers, Jason Crane and Tad Fry, Hargrove and Anheuser-Busch. Benchmarking users, Sabic and Alstom Power. Professional development, Emerson Process again, Dorothy. I can't see you, but I know you're here somewhere. And Sanjeev and David, the distinguished professors from Vanderbilt and Alabama, University of Alabama. Thank you. Okay, I would encourage you, not only just congratulate these individuals, but take some time to share with them. Their journey to the award and the award criteria is in your book, and it's a wonderful story. Each one of them has a wonderful story and wonderful accomplishments, but more importantly than we recognize perhaps their accomplishments is that we recognize them through engaging with them and learning from them, because that's what they're here for, and that's part of what the Institute is for. I would encourage you to do that. Okay, let's look at some safety numbers. We've had, as you know, every year we survey our members. By the way, one of the improvements we're going to make next year, Stephen Mulva and his team are going to incorporate the safety survey into the performance assessment system. So it'll be a matter of logging on into the system and filling in the numbers instead of filling out a separate survey. And at the same time, you'll be able to use the data miner and slice and dice the safety data any way you want. You won't have to wait for CII to issue you a report. So look forward to that next year. We had 55 members submit data so far this year. We have not closed the data collection. Data collection, we typically close kind of arbitrarily at half the members, so we still have a few more members to add to that. If you haven't submitted your data, we would love to have it. We are a research institute, and we live and breathe and die by our data. So the more data we have, the better. The total recordable incident rate, by the way, we do calculate this based on like we were a company. So the 55 companies submitted, it's like 55 divisions, comes in and it's all rolled up into the OSHA recordable calculations, a little over 2 billion exposure hours last year, 0.43. That's a 40+% improvement year over year since 2010. The days away restricted transfer cases of 0.15. That is a almost 20% improvement over last year. Fatalities totaled 18 last year. There were 25 the year before, an improvement of 7, so almost a 30% improvement over last year. I want to take a minute here. You guys, your performance has been spectacular this past year. I'd like to think that I had something to do with it up here, standing here and yelling at you over the past year, but I don't think so. I think you guys really took it to heart. You really took it seriously. And I want to applaud you for this outstanding performance. Thank you so much. Okay, now let's talk about predictability. I don't know what I was doing, but perhaps I was having a nightmare or a dream or something, but I had this vision of this, and I think you guys probably recognize what this is, yeah? I had this vision of maybe it's perhaps had this vision of being young again, and I was in my engineering economics class, and I was learning how to draw a cash flow diagram, right? And then I had a really good vision because I was taking my EIT exam, and I must have passed the exam, or I passed the exam, so I must have got the problem right. But I was doing this again in my problem, and I thought, this really speaks to predictability. So then, of course, you have a conversation with Stephen and some of the benchmarking people, and the next thing you know, Shazam, and you have this awesome kind of conversation that we can have with you. This is the average cash flow diagram for Mr. Owner, Mr. Average CII Owner here at CII. You can see his capital investment in red, $65 million on average, right? Kind of spreads over 36 months, so we start our front-end planning, we do some engineering, procurement, ultimately construction started up, and voila, 3 years later, we have a capital project, right? The benefit stream, the cash flow stream coming from 2015 on, we ran it for 20 years. We did collect the data we got some data from McCombs as well as from our benchmarking and metrics database to put this together, excuse me. We calculated an internal rate of return. It calculates to 14.1%. That's one of many checks that we did to see if we could validate this curve. In fact, it compares very favorably with the Morningstar numbers that are reported of a 14.7 internal rate of return for the oil and gas industry. So we feel pretty good that this is pretty representative. And, oh, by the way, I forgot to ask a couple of questions here. You've just come from your boss's office. He's assigned you as the project manager on this project. And he said it's a $65 million project, it's schedule driven. And since it's schedule driven, if you're just $5 or $10 million over budget, it's okay. Now, how many of you all have ever had that conversation? Oh. Okay, so let's go to the next question, next scenario, right? You've just been assigned to this project. You've come out of your boss's office. He said this project is really cost driven. We really need to have this at $65 million, but if it's 6 months or 8 months late, it's no big deal, right? Still get an excellent rating. You've had that conversation with your boss? Yeah? I don't see any hands. So it's the lights. I'm sure that you've had that conversation before. And why is that? It's because, and I probably didn't realize this when I was working on my EIT exam and doing the problem, but it's because that when we sanction a capital project and we look at the value, the benefit stream that's going to come from that to our corporations, we sanction a cost and we sanction a schedule, right? And when the cost slips, gee, we didn't provide the value to the shareholders that we thought we were going to. When the schedule slips, we're the capital projects people, we didn't deliver the value to the shareholders that we thought we were going to, or that we promised that we would. So this leads us actually to a question of how well does CII member companies do at meeting cost and schedule. And so we went into the CII database, and here's the results. There are 975 projects that we looked at. We looked at cost growth and schedule growth. Cost growth is on the horizontal axis, schedule growth on the vertical. And of course, cost growth is the actual actual minus the predicted divided by the predicted schedule, same kind of calculation. So you can get some negative numbers. Negative numbers are usually considered pretty good. And if I'm Mr. Average CII owner and I'm going to, in fact, execute exactly as I said I was going to, I'm going to hit the origin. My data point in the end of 3 years is going to come in 36 months, $65 million is going to hit the origin, right? So we said, well, okay, we did that. Now, what is kind of world class? So we went in and we looked at specifically the projects that have met schedule, that have met cost parameters that were predicted at sanction. And those that met it, we then took the top quartile and called that world class. So we didn't take the top 10%, we didn't take the top 5%, we took the top 25%, right? And lo and behold, 53 projects met that criteria. You can see the average cost growth and the average schedule growth right there of that group in green, and it gives us a bound of plus or minus 3% on cost growth and plus or minus 2.7% on schedule. And we called that world class, right? So you predicted within 3% essentially of cost and schedule, you're considered world class. 53 projects, 5.4%. By the way, there's all of the dots here. That shows about 30% of the projects, right? So there's another, roughly 700 dots or something like that that need to go on here somewhere. So it'd be pretty busy, although you'd see them out at the periphery of the graph, not in at the origin. So what's that mean? It means that if you're in the upper right-hand quadrant and not in that little square in the middle, you exceeded cost and you exceeded schedule. The average of the 239 projects in that quadrant was an average cost growth, an average exceeded cost of 16.2%, average schedule growth of 32%, so 30 a year beyond, so I actually finished that project. If I'm average and up in the right-hand corner of that graph, I just finished a year late. If we go to the left-hand corner, we see that cost and schedule both less than sanctions, so the average number there, 12.7% less cost, average schedule growth minus 8.2%, 10% less. So, and remember, we're outside the bounds of what we're calling world-class predictability now, okay? And we then, of course, I guess you have to answer the question, so what, right? So when we asked the question, so what, we then had to do another cash flow diagram, right? Because remember, schedule is important, cost is important, but this time the question is it a $65 million project or is it the portfolio of projects? How many of you all just do one project in your company? Yeah, we all have a portfolio of projects in our company, right? So we we calculated 62 public companies, 62 public owners here. We went again to Morningstar and checked. Everything checks pretty well. You can see investment on the bottom, cash flow on the top. The $4 billion in benefits that are coming, the benefit stream coming in there in 2011 is associated obviously not with just projects that were finished in 2011 and starting in 2012, but projects that had that lifespan out before them, right? So this is, we think, very representative model of what the average CII owner looks like, okay? $2 billion investment every year, including sustaining capital, and a $4 billion cash flow. And we said, okay, now we can tell, by the way, we calculated an average weighted cost of capital of 8.1%. Another one of those checks that feels pretty good with public data. And we cruise in and we say, now what's this mean? And so look here, if you were the $65 million average owner and you hit your $65 million in 3 years exactly, then you're in the top line there, right? So that's the as-is cash flow. You can see 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, etc., that you're exactly there. Now I was a year late or so on my project, or I started to be late, and I started to run over cost, I'm in the upper right-hand corner. You can see that the investments, the red lines going downward, are longer, but they're also pushed out to the right, okay? And when you calculate that over a 20-year lifespan of a project, you come up with, you calculate this cash flow, you come up with a $5.7 billion net present value that this capital program added to Mr. Average CII owner. Not bad. My dad told me if I found $5.7 billion on the street, I should stop and pick it up and take it home. But if you had hit the target on all of your projects, on the portfolio of projects, would have been $7.6 billion added to the net present value, the value to your organization. That's a 25% loss in net present value. That's pretty significant. We said, well, that's pretty good. Let's go see if we can look at, we'll be ahead of schedule, we'll be ahead of budget, and that should be really good, right? So you can see here, we've kind of started to move the cash flows to the left of the year marks, right? Where the investments are less than the as-is cash flow line. And we calculated a net present value of $6.8 billion. And now you're going to ask yourself, what in the world? How I was ahead of schedule, I was ahead of budget. Why am I just down 11%, or roughly $1 billion? Well, the reason is really simple. I as Mr. Average Owner, committed to give you $65 million. You didn't use $65 million, but I had it committed, so I couldn't go invest it somewhere else. So that opportunity cost essentially subtracted $1 billion from your net present value. Okay, so the value that we promised to bring to our corporation by being unpredictable really kind of didn't materialize. If we look at all of the quadrants here, if we're behind in schedule and ahead on cost, the average number is $6.4 billion compared to $7.7. The average in the bottom right, 6.6 as compared to the 7.7 target. So roughly $1 billion on average. And one of the questions you might ask is, where in the world does the average CII person end up, right? Our average project we calculated, our average owner ends up at $6.5 billion. So when we aggregate all of those 975 projects together, use this cash flow model, 8.1% average weighted cost of capital, $6.5 billion. So I think that means we have some work to do, right? I think that's why we're here. I probably, when I was doing this problem in 1972, spring of 1972 when I did my EIT exam. I don't think I knew what I was doing. I don't think I grasped the significance of a late project. I was an engineer, right? And I was going out to build projects. I'm going out to build things. I'm going out to find problems. I'm going out to solve problems. I'm going out to fix things. But our real job is to deliver that benefit stream as we promised to our shareholders. Yeah? And we deliver a positive benefit stream. We just leave some money on the table. And I think that's what we're all here for. That's what 641 of us registered for this conference for, right? Because we're going to see that's what this Institute's all about. The purpose of the Institute is, through research and associated activities, to figure out how we deliver that to our shareholders. How do we deliver that value, that target to our shareholders? And so to answer that question, of course, we started the Institute in 1983, and we've been growing. We've been doing research, we do professional development, we do some implementation, we do some measurement, real important part of what we do, and we can see where we're going, and we've been improving year over year. This year, we're going to get to see some awesome stuff at this conference. It is a content-filled conference. It is, I think this is my 6th conference, I think, as the director, and I think it is the most content-rich conference I've ever seen. So I'm really glad that you're here. I really look forward to seeing you engage with the research teams that have been busy, engage with the committees that have been busy, engage with our case study participants on their excellent projects. We're going to see safety leading indicators, right? We're going to see project management skills of the future. Our projects are getting bigger. Our projects are getting more complex. We're getting multilingual, multicultural projects. And it takes a different skill set. And that research team has been spending a couple years looking at that skill set, and it's going to tell you their findings now, which I think is pretty exciting. We got more front-end planning. We proved time and time again, proper front-end planning does us an awesome job on our projects, and we typically get in a hurry and don't do as good a job of front-end planning as we should. It's fun to go move dirt. Risk management, we get to use the word stochastic. That's one of my favorite words. I've been wanting to use that since I got my MBA, my first year MBA. I've been wanting to use that, and I finally got a chance to use it. Stochastic. Managing indirect costs, the first work we've done on that. We're going to talk about implementing practices, a new report from the Construction Productivity Research Team, the latest in modularization, a way to get the work from the field, man hours into a more manufacturing kind of environment, get them lower, safer. We're going to see what's happening there. We're going to see some case studies from Saudi Aramco and the U.S. Corps of Engineers. Our performance assessment team is going to talk about what we're doing in healthcare. Really awesome what we're doing there, I think. You're going to hear from our next generation of leaders. You're going to hear latest developments on professional development. Our youth this year are incredible. You're going to enjoy them for sure. In fact, you know, every year we've been bringing youth here. It seems like youth get better evaluations from you all than the rest of us do. So, not sure what that says. So it's going to be a busy 2 days. We've got a wonderful lineup of keynote speakers. Oh, by the way, this was on your chair when you came in, or on the table in front of you. And Stephen and Joaquin and the benchmarking team have written. So any questions you have, they do a whole lot better job of explaining the cash flow diagrams and stuff than I do, right? But it's here in here, it's on your table, and we're happy to answer any questions about those.
Our first plenary presentation this morning is titled Going Beyond Zero Using Safety Leading Indicators. Our speaker is Billy Gibbons, Chevron Global Account Executive for JMJ Associates, where she uses her 23 years of experience to create incident and injury-free and high-performance workplaces. Billy has consulted for various industries and has taught and conducted research in life cycle safety and design, applied construction ergonomics, and safety management. Please welcome Billy Gibbons.
Good morning. I have the absolute pleasure of representing just the highlights of the research team 284, Safety Leading Indicators. I'd like to just start by saying, if you have never served on a CII research team, I highly recommend it. You develop relationships, both personal and professional, that will last your whole career. And as well as gain knowledge that you couldn't have found anywhere else. So our team had a purpose, and the entire team was committed to this purpose passionately. And it was to achieve not just incremental improvement, but breakthrough in safety performance by going beyond what we generally do in industry, which is this hyper-focus on lagging indicators, incident and injuries, to include identifying what we need to be doing, which is measuring leading indicators. Our research objectives were twofold. One is just to identify what those leading indicators were and their measures that are going to give us this breakthrough in safety performance we're looking for. And then the second is to produce the tools for you that identify, measure, and track these leading indicators to realize this breakthrough. And we were going for nothing less than breakthrough. What do we mean by going beyond zero? We believe strongly that to go beyond where we have currently been, and we're doing pretty good like Wayne indicated earlier, but again, to break through beyond zero, we need to focus on where it is that we want to be. And what we have learned through our research is that leading indicators is going to give us the breakthrough that we're looking for to get beyond where we currently are. Well, what does it mean to go on beyond zero? We have defined it a few ways. These are the things that resonate most passionately with us. Making the absence of incident and injuries a reality through the intentional, moment-by-moment creation of project safety. Creating a work environment in which the absence of incident and injuries is not just a real possibility that we all work for every day, but an actual reality. So what are leading indicators? Trust me, we spent a long time in our team trying to define this, but here's what we defined. It's measuring attitudes, behaviors, practices, or conditions that positively influence construction safety performance. We identified or created a definition, and I know a lot of you think you know what leading indicators is, but I think this is going to cut an edge above. Two specific kinds of leading indicators for safety. One is what we've coined passive. And these are safety strategies that are generally implemented prior to a construction phase that sets the project up for success. So these are, you start thinking about these, you put them in place before you ever move any dirt. Examples of this are pre-qualification process for contractors, safety expectations in contracts, consideration of safety and constructability reviews. We identified over 100. Over 100. The second one is active, what we call active. So once construction starts, these are practices and observations that can be measured and adjusted during construction phase that can trigger positive safety responses. And of course, this is all before an incident and injury occurs. And then examples of this could be a variety of things.
Really?
Of course. It's Billy. Billy.
Really?
No, Billy, not Willie. Billy, not Willie.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's really great to see you. What a surprise. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, Billy. Satellite Delta 7 detected a gathering of people, and we wanted to make certain you knew where the emergency exits were.
Oh, well, thank you, doctor. Yes, we did cover that earlier. Everyone, this is renowned researcher Dr. Ziggerheit of Ziggerheit Labs. Doctor, we were just about to jump into this topic of leading indicators.
Oh, Billy, it's much safer not to jump, but to step.
Well, of course, thank you. But, doctor, what can you tell us about leading indicators? What do you know?
I'm so very happy. This is one of my favorite subjects.
Oh, well, mine too, but why?
Because it makes me look like a magician. You see, leading indicators are simply pieces of information from the now, which hint a little bit about the future. They indicate to what we are leading up to. If you put a lot of these pieces together, you have a pretty good shot at predicting the future.
Wow. Well, could you tell us some more about that?
Well, you see these things all the time. Every time you look at the Dow Jones or NASDAQ, you are really looking at the behavior of companies and trying to interpret their behaviors as signs of the economic future. In fact, the term leading indicator came from economics.
Oh, that's fascinating. I didn't know that.
I agree. But the most common example is something we've known all the way back to childhood. Of course, I mean going to the doctor.
Oh.
Every time a doctor looks at you, he's asking questions of himself. Is his skin healthy? How's her blood pressure? How are his reflexes? What is her temperature? How's his waistline? And so on. Every one of these answers, be they a measurement or a yes or no or whatever, the answers provide a clue about his current state. But just as importantly, each one is a clue about the future. It is a...
It's a what? What is it?
I'm waiting for you guys to say it.
Oh.
These clues about the future are...
Of course, it's a leading indicator, of course.
No, Billy. Let the audience say it.
Oh. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, how are these two guys? Well, you may look at handsome over here
Hey, wait a minute.
and say, Exhibit 1 will live to be 105, and you would be dead wrong. Exhibit 1 will probably only live for another 5 to 10 minutes. He drinks heavily, smokes like a chimney, eats like a pig, doesn't get any sleep, and hardly ever calls his mother.
Well,
He's a bad boy. We can all be fooled by youth and a fast metabolism.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling so good.
I would certainly think not. Exhibit 2, on the other hand, while aesthetically he looks a little dumpy,
dude, take it easy.
his chubby belly hides the vitals of a superman. Picture perfect cholesterol, wunderbar blood pressure. He just needs to lose a little weight.
Hey, I'm working on it.
The moral to the story is that leading indicators work very well when taking a variety of measurements to accurately predict the future of an economy or a body or any system you are looking at. Which brings me back to your talk, Billy. Exhibit 2 really isn't a person.
I'm not?
No, dear boy. You're a metaphor. Exhibit 2 is really a very healthy project. There's a few too many people working on it. When I checked his pulse, I was really checking on the project's safety audit score. When I took his blood pressure, I was really assessing the stop work authority.
Who am I? What am I?
You are a very healthy project. The point is, when a doctor checks your cholesterol and your blood pressure and tells you don't eat so much bacon, he's using leading indicators to save your life. And likewise, on construction projects, when we check safety audits, housekeeping, near-miss reporting, worker involvement, worker observations, stop work authority, safety leadership training, hazard recognition programs, or any of the many other leading indicators for safety, we are measuring so that we can make suggestions that can improve our safety culture and save lives. And that is why leading indicators are one of my favorite things.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. And thanks for dropping in on us today. Really appreciate it. So we learned some incredible things in our research, so we felt, and we're really excited to share them with you. For example, did you know that CII members, although many of us know what they are or think they know what they are, they don't track them, they don't measure them, and most importantly, they don't respond to them. The more projects, what we learned, implement passive, what we call passive leading indicators, the more they are closer to world-class safety, and I'll show you a number in a minute that shows that. However, passive is insufficient to go beyond zero. It's these active leading indicators that we have learned are the key to realizing this breakthrough safety performance that we want so badly. And if you come to our implementation session, you'll get everything you need to know about our research and what you can do to do that. For example, just of the 100 passive leading indicators, the more they were implemented, the closer people got to around a 0.55 average recordable rate. They did better. We created an active leading indicator implementation process that we'll go over, and we're really excited to share it with you about how you can identify what's right for your project and then track it, measure it, and adjust accordingly. Yep. What you'll get in the implementation session is, of course, an overview of our research, which leading indicators we have learned are most effective for realizing the results, how you can identify the indicators for your project, and you'll get a thumb drive And it'll have everything on it, all our research publications. And by the way, the research publications are already available on the web for your use, so we want to encourage you to do that. And along with some of the most commonly asked questions about using safety leading indicators. And by the way, the doctor will be in. So please join us. Thank you.
Next on the program is Applying Probabilistic Risk Management in Design and Construction. Our presenter is Karen Furlani, Project Risk and Controls Manager at CH2M. She is responsible for developing, implementing, and managing enterprise standard procedures and systems for project controls. During her 18-year career in the capital projects industry, she has worked in a variety of project delivery roles as both a contractor and an owner, including risk, project engineering, construction, and facilities management. Ladies and gentlemen, Karen Furlani.
As we all know, and as the video does a great job reminding us, risk is everywhere, and we deal with it daily in our industry. To be successful in today's highly competitive global delivery environment, you have to be a leader in managing uncertainty and risks at the project level, the program level, in your business lines and enterprises. Most of us have developed and implemented risk management programs to some level of maturity within our companies and on our projects as the result of good business practices, or sometimes in response to a bad project or the unexpected impact of a black swan event. CII has sponsored previous teams to research risk management-related topics, resulting in the publication of several excellent resources on risk management and international project risk assessment. and other organizations such as PMI, AACE, and ECRI have contributed to the collective knowledge as well. The question isn't whether an active risk management program has value. We all know that it does. Or what the foundational steps should be. We have a good sense of that. But to what level of detail do you apply the risk management process? Is the identification and communication of risk sufficient? Or do they merit quantification such that we have discrete costs and schedule values to help us rank and prioritize? Or is a project or initiative complex enough to warrant taking a deeper dive and applying probabilistic risk management so that we can holistically model uncertainties and risks to bolster decision making and illuminate the possible outcomes of those decisions? This is the essential question that our team was brought together to address. What would be the benefits and implications of using a probabilistic approach to analyze cost and schedule risks for capital projects? But first, what do we mean by probabilistic approach? Techniques for estimating risk using a Monte Carlo analysis to determine what can go wrong, how likely it is, and what are the consequences. These results not only give us confidence in the overall outcome, but help us identify risks that have the greatest impact on the uncertainty and project outcomes. The team explored who, what, when, why, and how probabilistic risk management was used in the capital projects industry. We conducted 2 surveys to initially understand and then validate the use of risk management, and in particular, probabilistic approaches in CII and PMI member companies. We also conducted 12 in-depth case studies to obtain a deeper understanding of probabilistic risk management in our industry. Companies who participated were selected based upon their use of probabilistic approaches and were balanced across owners and contractors, public and private, and horizontal, vertical, and industrial projects. So what did we find? Some clear benefits. Probabilistic risk analysis lets you better manage project costs and schedules, better manage and prioritize risks, increase your confidence in project outcomes and decision making, and lastly, improve collaboration and communication within your organization, amongst team members, and with other stakeholders. So who's using it? Who's getting these benefits? Let's pause for a moment. I want you to look to your neighbor on your left, and now to your neighbor on your right. Because chances are that one of your neighbors is actively using and benefiting from probabilistic risk management. Our results indicated that 58% of the companies surveyed are using it, and that 90% of those implementing probabilistic approaches felt that they received an ROI of at least 1 to 10, while a third of our respondents noted ROIs exceeding 1 to 100. Wow. So how do you get there? We've developed a series of implementation resources to help companies realize the benefits that probabilistic risk management can deliver. They are designed around a key finding in our research, that companies implementing probabilistic risk management follow a general leveled progression leading to probabilistic risk analysis. In the implementation session, we'll explore the benefits and limitations of these levels in more detail, how to assess your project needs to determine when to progress from one level to the next, and how the implementation guides that we've developed can help you get there. The team has developed a process roadmap for implementing probabilistic risk management, including guidance for selecting the appropriate level of risk analysis for a project and interpreting the results. In addition, the team has produced a risk register tool to help guide you through implementing a risk management process that builds on the 3 levels of identification, deterministic, and probabilistic. These resources will be provided at the implementation session on mini CDs and handouts for your use and as a convenient way to share these materials with your companies and project teams. They're also available for download from the CII website. So what's your ROI? Are you fully exploring and effectively using the risk management levels in your company and on your projects? Are you successfully applying and benefiting from probabilistic risk management? Your neighbors are, and if you aren't, you need to be. With the majority of users reporting ROIs on the order of 1 to 10, and with over 1/3 reporting ROIs exceeding 1 to 100, you can't afford not to. And for those who are fully engaged in the risk management levels, how can you improve your process and more effectively apply the levels to enhance your existing risk management programs? Please come to our implementation session in Salon A later this morning at 11 and again at 1 p.m. to learn more about the 3 risk levels and how you can achieve high ROIs with the implementation of probabilistic risk management. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Now we have a report from the Project Management Skills for the Future Research Team. We have 2 presenters. Craig Connell is Vice President and Operations Director of Power Generation Services at Black & Veatch. Craig has been with Black & Veatch for 33 years and has also been involved in engineering and project management of power plants in the United States and overseas. Also on the program is Sarah Scott, currently a coordinator for Fluor's Business Transformation Initiative. She has worked to improve customer relations and cost effectiveness and has also served in design and project engineering. Please welcome Craig Connell and Sarah Scott.
Good morning. I'm Craig Connell with Black & Veatch.
And I'm Sarah Scott with Fluor Corporation. We're here to tell you about some really amazing changes that will affect all of us in the world of project and construction management.
We'd like to introduce for you our research team, made up of 19 members. As you can see, they represent a wide range of companies. Our research team's goals were quite simple, actually, to determine the PM skills, project management skills needed 10 years from now.
The kind of changes we discovered require us to think different about the way we lead projects and manage people. So what does it mean to think different? Let's take a look at how some people challenge the status quo.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Now, the kind of changes that these revolutionary individuals did is, in many ways, just completely revolutionary. And although the kind of different thinking that we'll be doing may not be as big or revolutionary, it's important to recognize that in the near future, we will see some evolutionary changes heading our way.
Here's a question for you. What if, in the middle of your career as a successful project manager, you learn that the PM skills you need in the future are quite different from the ones you have today? Does that concern you? It should. It's a career gamble that none of us can afford to make. That's what we'll talk about in today's Project Management Skills of the Future breakout sessions. These sessions are based on the research of a study commissioned in 2010 by CII and completed earlier this year. Our team studied nearly 350 project execution professionals, and our results were shaped by the trends and forces changing our workforce of 2022.
The study showed that significant shifts are occurring in both the duties and responsibilities of project managers. Specifically, we can expect big changes as a result of advances in technology, greater access to information, rapidly evolving workforce demographics, and changing organization structures. One expert called these changes disruptive forces because they break up the old ways of getting work done. As a result, we're all being challenged to find new, more effective ways to approach projects, work with others, and manage the flow of project information. Now, granted, the term disruptive tends to have a more negative connotation, but there are some positive elements to it as well. If we all choose to see it as an opportunity that's ahead of us, we'll be better prepared for the newer ways of working that are emerging.
Let me put it this way. Understanding these forces and adjusting to them may well spell the difference between successful projects and their project managers and unsuccessful ones. Sorry, didn't mean you. If you come to our sessions today, you'll learn about what new challenges PMs will face in the next 10 years. If you want to find out what new skills are needed to address those challenges, you'll hear them in this session as well.
One interesting finding from this study is that some of the skills of 2022 will not be completely different from those that are required today. Good news, right? But it's the way that we use those skills which may be different. For example, in 2022, it will continue to be important for project managers to be experts at building relationships with clients, with coworkers, and with team members. But the way in which we build and maintain those relationships may be shifting. Project managers in 2022 will be building knowledge networks, networks that aim to create and share new information, strengthen collaboration, and link appropriate policies directly into practice. Your networks will be global, both inside and outside of the project environment, and they'll be virtual, meaning that not everyone will work in the same project or office location.
As we mentioned before, being unprepared for the future is a career gamble that none of us can afford to make. When you attend our breakout session, which is in Salon B, B for Baltimore, when you attend our breakout session using the PM Project Management Skills card decks that you all receive in your packets, you'll have the opportunity to put into practice the various skills that may be needed in 2022. We will challenge you to think interactive, think leadership, think different.
Our final plenary presentation this morning comes from Don Orndorff, Senior Vice President of Kaiser Permanente's National Facility Services. Don is in charge of their 64 million square foot real estate portfolio. He is leading more than 2,700 employees and managing an annual capital construction budget of $3 billion. He spent 29 years in the Civil Engineering Corps of the U.S. Navy and also served as Director of the VA's Office of Construction and Facilities Management. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Orndorff.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a great opportunity for me to come join you today to talk a little bit about what's going on in Kaiser Permanente in National Facility Services and what we're trying to do in the area of benchmarking. Very quickly, a little about Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente is one of the nation's largest healthcare systems. It's a fully integrated system where we have a health plan, we have a hospital system, and we have physicians working together for a common objective of total health of our members. We have about 9 million members. Much of our business is in California, although we do stretch across the country. We're in 9 states. It's about a $50 billion operating business, about 200,000 employees. And on the infrastructure, we have over 1,000 buildings, 37 hospitals, and 7 major hospital projects in flight. So a lot of business in my space. Next, please. The culture of Kaiser Permanente is very about measuring performance, and we've really come an incredible way in the area of quality over just a decade. And I think you can see from some of these external recognitions that we measure our business. It's a highly regulated environment, so whether you like it or not, you're going to be measured. But we're doing it very proactively now, and we've seen some incredible results in the quality area of our clinical side of the business. So why aren't we doing that in the facilities part of the business? I've been with Kaiser for about 2.5 years now, and we've really put a focus on moving in this direction. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. First of all, this is a slide that I think kind of exemplifies the Kaiser model. On the left-hand side, you have 9 million members. On the right-hand side, you have highly acute care facilities that are taking care of very sick people. We like it when people are on the left side, and I think people like it when they're on the left side. So the integrated system allows us to do that. But all along the way, we do have to have the spectrum of care, and there's a great deal of infrastructure associated with that. We would like, where the industry, the healthcare industry going, of course, like many industries, the technology is rapidly changing, and so more and more care is moving to the left side of this chart. But as far as the eye can see, despite what some of our futurist friends are telling us, we still need to have the infrastructure, we still need to have the facilities to take care of our members. One of the things that, again, when I arrived at Kaiser, I asked, what is the measure of success? What are the outcomes that we desire in the facility space? And quite frankly, we didn't have that defined. And so we went through a process of working with the senior leadership at Kaiser to say, what are the outcomes that are most worthy of measurement, and that we must excel in order to be successful or industry leading. These are the 10 that we came up with, 5 for driving up quality and 5 for driving down cost. High quality, affordable health care is what Kaiser aspires to. The ones on the quality are kind of interesting. Some of them you would expect, and some of them maybe not. For example, IT readiness within facilities. We hadn't typically thought of information technology infrastructure as a key component of building's capability, but now it's absolutely, as you know, essential. Driving down cost, some of the things that you would think, some of them are operating cost, some of them are more capital type views. The last one on there is the reduce the cost of facilities construction. I'm going to talk a little more about that in a second. The bubbles on this chart, we kind of made this chart up. I don't know if this, there's a lot of academic perspective in this room, and so this is a cartoon that we drew that kind of showed where our big major business units, regional business units are in terms of how well we're achieving these desired outcomes. And if you're over on the right side of this chart, you're doing great. You're hitting a target. If you're on the left side of this chart, then you're lagging in terms of internal comparisons within our business. But the challenge is most of these comparisons, in fact, essentially all of them on this chart, are comparing one regional business unit against another. And in some cases, these measurements are somewhat unique to our business model, so maybe there aren't great external comparisons. But clearly, when you get down to cost of construction, there should be great external comparisons. Surprisingly, though, in the healthcare industry, construction industry, we don't seem to have readily available those kinds of benchmarks. There's many general construction industry benchmarks and so forth, but as everybody would say in their business, we're unique and we're looking for those unique comparisons within the healthcare. So we're looking to move that along. There's some obviously others of these where we can do industry comparisons, and we're doing that. And we're on a journey right now to really compare ourselves to what's going on in the healthcare industry with all of the competition and other systems that are out there to see where we are and how we can contribute more to the success of Kaiser's overall mission. Facilities is a big cost within healthcare. As much as 10% of the total cost of your healthcare is driven by the facilities that healthcare operates from. So huge cost, huge area of opportunity to improve our business. One slice or one of those 10 desired outcomes is to drive down construction cost. We do a lot of construction in Kaiser Permanente. We've got about a $3 billion annual program, and we're always looking at every business case that we developed of, is this a good price? Is this a good project cost? Our board is asking that. And frankly, what we do is we look a little bit in the rearview mirror and compare give historical comparisons of a new project cost against prior project cost. But we want to be able to expand that beyond Kaiser Permanente and say what's going on in the greater industry. And if others have found ways of driving that cost down in a way that makes them more successful and competitive, gosh, we'd sure like to know where those opportunities are, and we can shine the microscope or the telescope on those areas. So here's an example of what we did with this internal comparison. And as you can see, there's a pretty wide range of cost here for a medical office building per square foot. Why is that? Don't really know. We need to find out. That's part of what this whole journey is about. What I'm going to show now set up is a video of an initiative that Kaiser Permanente has partnered with CII, also with the Department of Defense Health and Department of Veterans Affairs Health, to really look at how can we get this industry-wide benchmarking in the healthcare space. We're very excited about this. We see the real value in this. And I invite all of you to think about how you might participate in this initiative. So with that, if we could roll the video, please.
We in DOD invest millions of dollars every year to build new facilities, to renovate facilities, but we really don't have a good way of measuring how well we're doing.
Today, the healthcare industry really has no benchmarking information in healthcare facilities.
If you're only comparing your projects against yourself, you have no way of ever knowing how to proceed to improve yourself.
You've got to have an external voice saying you're doing well, you're being competitive, and you're spending your money in an efficient, effective way.
The facilities component is an important part of healthcare. It is a significant cost driver. It's been estimated anywhere between 12 to 25% of healthcare costs are coming from the facilities component. If you can learn from other organizations effectively how to reduce that component, it helps make you more competitive.
One of the beauties I see of the benchmarking program is it will allow us to demonstrate to our leadership where we are improving and where we stand relative to other industry leaders, and I think that that's really important.
Some other industries have seen significant cost savings over time by doing this kind of comparison.
I think just seeing the results come back from CII benchmarking in some ways validates where you are doing the right thing, and it gives you some reason to focus on some of the weak points.
This isn't viewed as an area where we're giving away proprietary know-how or advantage. When you work in a program like the CII, it's blinded, so you can see your data, but you can't really see individual data from the other companies.
Previous to this, we didn't have any information to make good decisions with. It was just a guess. Now we're going to have real data to make good, accurate decisions.
Every time we can reduce or eliminate mistakes, then that's a good thing, because that will save us money now and it will save us money well into the future.
This is a tool that will be able to benefit any healthcare provider, regardless of size, geographic location, complexity, will all benefit from this information.
We're there. We're ready to go. We've got CII facilitating the process. We've got 3 major healthcare systems inputting data. So we really need, the broad participation of the industry to make this an effective tool for everyone. So if you're in the healthcare construction industry, I very much invite you to participate in our project here and to really broaden the base of data and give us great information coming out as to the real cost and the industry-leading examples of where we've nailed healthcare construction. We have an implementation session. I'll be moderating. We have, as you can see, 4 industry experts and what's going on in their world in terms of benchmarking, and we very much invite you to be part of that session. Thank you.
Next up, a report on the CII-CMAA Alliance, the mark of a professional. As both an owner's agent and the design-build contractor for at-risk projects, Dr. Titzer manages a wide variety of project types for Jacobs. His experience includes helping designers and contractors safely meet quality, budget, and schedule requirements. Currently, he oversees Jacobs' East PMCM Global Building Sales Organization. Please welcome Dr. Titzer.
Good morning. Like many of you, I started in the industry as a scheduler, project engineer, graduated to become a project manager, and then a project executive. And one of the things I learned was I wasn't really as in tune with the industry as I thought I needed to be. I wasn't learning. And so what I did was I joined the Construction Management Association of America. I then became a certified construction manager, which is what I'm going to talk to you about today. In my current role, I'm actually one of the board of governors for the group that oversees that certification. That group is called the Construction Management Certification Institute. And I'm also overseeing the exam committee. So I have a pretty good understanding of the certification. The diagram I just put up on the screen is to help you see that CMAA is well over 10,000 individuals and owner organizations. CMCI, that's the group that I am the chair of, and we have over 1,800 CCMs. And then the CMIT is the Construction Manager and Training Program, which during the implementation session we'll give some additional information on that for those who might not yet be able to get their CCM, but are very interested in continuing their learning. So what you may not know is back in January of 2010, an alliance was formed. That alliance was between CII and CMAA, with the focus of using the best practices, like the skills of the future that we just heard about, and tying that with the professional practice of the individual, which is CMAA. The alliance is very strong because it contains a lot of the same member organizations. And they're pushing the alliance even tighter, and I'll touch on that here in a moment on something that we're doing right now with the alliance. So there's a lot of connectivity between the two groups. It's a very strong fit. So you may ask, what is a certified construction manager? It's pretty much this simple. It's an individual with education and/or experience who can document that experience and then they can demonstrate it by passing an exam. Now, one of the things that we'll give a lot more detail during the implementation session is we don't believe that you just have to have a college degree. We have different paths for 4-year, 2-year, and no degrees. Because I know a lot of excellent construction professionals who don't have degrees. We want them as part of the group. We want the excellent construction management professionals to have the CCM designation. So the exam is going to be based on our standards of practice. And it's going to have project cost, time, quality management sections, contract administration, professional practice, safety and risk. But as I mentioned, even as of today, we have a group that is gathering questions from the CII body of knowledge, and we're incorporating that information right now. So it's a very strong alliance, and we're able to take all that information and make sure that the CCMs who come through the system continue to grow in their knowledge of what we do as an industry. One of the other strengths of the CCM certification is that it's ANSI accredited. And so why is that important? A lot of certifications are not ANSI accredited. ANSI is very stringent. There's a very high standard. So it makes it very strong in that ANSI across the US, but it's also tied with ISO. And ISO being global means that anywhere you take your CCM, it means just as much somewhere else in a different country as it does here in the United States. So what's the value to you as an individual if you wanted to get your CCM? Why would you do that? Well, in these tough economic times, it can increase your opportunities. If you have 2 individuals with the same skill set and you have one individual who's gone the extra mile to continue their education, they do stand out. So it's a marketing item. Now, one of the things that I like about it is why I did it in the first place. There's a lot of continuing education because I can't know everything from what I do every day, obviously. So I really enjoy that aspect. Now, if you're a service provider, why would you want to have CCMs on staff? Well, it helps you see the level of your staff, those who are trying to excel in their daily work. It's also a marketability issue, and I'll touch on that here in another couple of slides. It's very strong, you'll see. And one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that if you have CCMs on staff, you can actually lower your liability insurance by having those professionals on your projects. So for the industry, the CCM is a very respected career path for a professional construction manager. OMB, Office of Management Budget, is actually creating career paths today to pick up what we're doing within the construction industry as our CCM, as pure career paths. Very important, civilian and DoD. Sets those standards, and then we have the continuing education. So what I'd like to do now is have somebody else talk with you regarding why they believe the CCM is important. And we have a video clip here of Stephen Ayers, who is the architect of the Capitol. And Stephen will tell us why he believes the CCM is important to him with his whole portfolio work at Capitol Hill.
Having certified construction managers on our projects simply reduces our risk. For me, anytime I can reduce risk and increase my potential of getting a project done on time and on budget is something that's important to me. And from our experience, certified construction managers are able to do that. They have the body of knowledge, they have the quality assurance techniques, they know how to get it done, and they've been certified in this. And for me, it's simply about reducing risks on projects, and CCMs do that for me.
So thank you, Stephen. So that's the owner who has millions of square feet of historic, very high-profile properties and why he feels it's important. What's up on the screen here are a number of other owners who not only feel that it's important, but like the architect of the Capitol, will provide, in most cases, preferential treatment to firms that submit teams that contain CCMs. Pretty powerful stuff. You can get more points if your proposal contains individuals with a CCM. Corps of Engineers, GSA, a number of large New York City organizations shown here. So as all these owners have been coming on board and giving this preferential point treatment in a proposal, and as we got our ANSI accreditation in 2006, our certification has really blossomed quickly. We have well over 1,800 today, and as one of the guys, being the exam chair guy, I oversee and I review a lot of the applications as they come in, me and the other board of governors. It's not slowing down. We are continuing to see a very fast growth in our credential. So we've surveyed owners and CCMs to see why would they think, when would you want a CCM on a project? Just to give you one more snapshot of where it would be important potentially to you. And like Stephen Ayers said, it's really when you have a very complex project. And we said, well, what would be the benefit to you as the individual? And it was both achievement and the credibility that I've gone that extra step. And I now have that credential behind my name on my resume and on the work that I sign. So the Certified Construction Manager certification is truly the gold standard for the construction management professional. It represents, for the organization and the individual, continuing to learn and moving forward. And it's truly a benefit to both the industry and the public that we serve when we build these facilities. So we're going to be upstairs in the Essex room. I hope you can come join us. At that point, we will have a very open forum discussion, take a lot of questions. That's really the focus, is make sure we answer your questions. We're going to touch on what it would take to be eligible. What's included? What would you have to study? What's the timeline? What are the fees? We'll also touch on the construction manager and training program for those who might not yet be eligible to get their CCM, and then any other questions you may have. So thank you very much.